What unfolds when a 12-year-old black girl steps into a bank by herself and they peg her as a thief? Have you ever observed how adults size up children as if they've already pinned down their identity? Your years, your outfit, even your stride as you enter a space seem to tell them everything. That's precisely what occurred with 12-year-old Maya Jackson one ordinary Thursday afternoon in central Cleveland, Ohio. The weather was mild, early spring. You know, the sort of day where the sunlight's gentle but still makes you narrow your eyes a bit. Maya had just finished school, still dressed in her checkered skirt and dark blue cardigan, the one that always gave her a slightly grown-up vibe. Her cornrows were tidy, her trainers spotless, and her chin was up. Nestled snugly under her arm was a little cream envelope holding 86, gifts from her birthday, earnings from watching kids, and a few dollars from walking dogs for folks nearby. She'd been stashing it away for months, and this was her first solo trip to deposit money. Her mum had said, "If you're mature enough to make it, you're mature enough to handle it." So there she stood, queuing at Northside Community Bank, right at the intersection of Main and Elm Street. The bank had that dull stillness typical of such places. A guy in a suit was scribbling on a form at one of those tall desks by the door. An elderly lady was murmuring into her phone near the glass. Overhead, fluorescent bulbs hummed faintly. It smelled of paper and toner. When Maya got to the counter, she approached with her usual blend of jitters and eagerness. She grinned and said, "Hello, I'd like to add this to my account." That's when she encountered Susan Bradley, grey sweater, badge, cropped hair, likely in her 50s. She wore that stiff expression of someone who's dealt with people too long and lost the joy in it. Bradley didn't return the grin. She lifted her gaze from her monitor deliberately, peering at Maya as if puzzled by her presence. "Yes?" she replied coolly. Maya offered her envelope and tried again. "I'd like to save this. I've got an account already. My mom set it up." Bradley didn't reach for it. She cocked her head a touch, then scanned Maya from her hair to her attire, down to her footwear. "Where's your guardian?" Maya blinked. "My mom's at her job. She's fine with me being here." A silence hung, an uneasy one. Then Bradley grabbed the envelope, cautious, as if it might bite. "And where'd this cash come from?" Maya's gut tightened, but her tone held firm. "It's mine. Parts from my birthday. The rest I earned doing odd jobs for neighbors." Bradley's brows arched like she'd sniffed out a fib. She unsealed the envelope and tallied the cash right there, $86. Not a fortune, not even close. But the way she eyed it, as if it was shady, as if Maya had strolled in with loot from a heist, shifted the mood. "I'll need some ID," Bradley declared abruptly. "I don't carry one," Maya replied, "but my name's on the account. It's Maya Jackson. My mom arranged it. I've deposited before." Bradley exhaled and pecked at her keyboard. "No ID, no way to confirm a thing. You could be anybody stepping up here." "But I've got my account number," Maya said, digging into her bag for a tiny notebook where her mom had jotted it down. "It's mine." Bradley didn't glance at it. She was already signaling someone. A guy in a dark vest, bald-headed, ambled over from the rear office. He had the air of someone counting down to a break. Maya's grip on her envelope tightened. Her posture stayed steady, but her pulse pounded in her ears. She sensed the looks now. From the suit guy at the desk, the woman by the glass. Her hands seemed oversized, her voice too faint, yet this was only the start. The vest guy sidled up next to Bradley and gave Maya a quick scan. He wasn't mad, just aloof, like this was standard fare. "This her?" he asked. "Yeah," Bradley said, not eyeing Maya. "Walked in to deposit cash, no ID, says it's her account. Feels off." Feels off. Maya couldn't fathom what she'd just heard. She parted her lips to protest, but the man cut in. "All right, let's check it out." He faced her. "Your name?" "Maya Jackson." He punched it into Bradley's computer. A beat, then a dip of his head. Yeah, there's an account under that name, started last year. Seems it's tied to a custodial account under Tanya Jackson. That's my mom, Maya said fast. She works nearby. Bradley mumbled, still fixated on the envelope like it could detonate. Doesn't account for the money, Bradley pressed. Maya's hands trembled now, but she clung to her bag strap like an anchor. I told you, it's from my birthday, plus dog walking and babysitting around the block. I brought cash here before, no issues then. Bradley leaned closer, her voice lowering like she'd nabbed a culprit. Sweetie, do you get how big a deal it is to show up with money you can't show is yours? Maya's jaw dropped a fraction. But it is mine. The man sighed. Got your mum's number? Maybe we should ring her to double-check. Maya paused. She had it saved, sure, but this felt wrong. She wasn't getting assistance. She was being managed. She eased her phone from her bag. I'll message her, she said softly. Bradley folded her arms. We need to talk to her directly, not via you. Maya brushed that off and typed swiftly, her thumbs striking the screen with force. Mom, come to the bank. They're blocking my deposit. They think I'm shady. Please. Her heart galloped, her ears hot with embarrassment. The man had snatched the envelope, holding it like a clue. Bradley muttered something to him, and they both glanced at her. She couldn't catch the words, but their shared look, then at her, cast. Her as less a child, more a hassle. She scanned the room. No one spoke up, no one intervened, but eyes lingered. The suit guy frowned. The phone lady hushed. Maya felt like she was center stage in a trial, not a bank. She was 12. She'd done zilch wrong, yet just being there marked her guilty. She ached to yell, but her mom's early lesson held her back. Shout, and they'll catch the racket, not the facts. So she stayed mute. She waited. Her phone pinged. Coming, say nothing more. Bradley peeked at the phone and smirked. She reply? Maya nodded, silent. She's on her way? The man asked. Yes. Her tone was flat now. Bradley propped herself on the counter, like she was ready for a spectacle. Fine, we'll wait. Maya said nothing. She fixed her stare on the glass door, urging it to swing wide. She pictured her mum striding in, heels sharp, with that steady, firm look she donned when stuff needed sorting. She recalled her words. They'll question you before they see you. That's on them, not you. Still, it stung all the same. Soon that door would part, but what came through would catch everyone off guard. The wall clock read 3:43 p.m. To Maya, it felt like ages. The man, tag reading Tom R., had ducked back to the office with her envelope. Bradley lingered at her post, arms crossed, gnawing her cheek like she'd rather be anywhere than waiting on a young black girl who skipped the rules. Maya stood by the counter, hands down, gazing ahead. She barely blinked, didn't shift, just bided her time as her mum advised, they expect you to crack, so don't let them win. Tom strolled back minutes later, now with a companion. A woman in a dark blue jacket, a bit younger than Bradley, walked alongside. Her badge read, Laura Kent, Branch Manager. She seemed poised but intrigued, like the details were still fuzzy. Bradley pounced. This is her, the one I mentioned. Tried dropping cash with no ID. Account's legit, but it's under her mum's name. No papers, no adult here. Cash appeared, and she claims it's from odd jobs and gifts. Laura eyed. Maya, her gaze tightening slightly. Not distrust, more like she was piecing it together. Maya didn't wait for a prompt. I'm Maya Jackson. My mom's Tanya Jackson. She started my account here. She's coming. They wouldn't let me save the money. It's just $86. Laura blinked. 86? Yep. Tom shifted. It's not the sum, he said. It's the steps. No ID, no proof. Laura raised a hand to halt him, then turned to Bradley. Anything pop up in the system? Nope, Bradley said. But seriously, Laura, does this seem legit? A kid waltzes in with cash, no grown-up. Laura didn't bite. She studied Maya a moment more, then said evenly, "May I see the envelope?" Tom passed it over. Laura opened it, peeked inside. She thumbed through tens, fives, someones. It screamed birthday cash and tips. No fat stacks, nothing odd. Laura shut the envelope and set it down softly. "You've saved here before?" Maya nodded. "Once with my mom, once alone. They assisted me last time. I've got the account number. I keep it with me." Laura glanced at Bradley. "Did she offer the number?" Bradley squirmed. "She mentioned it, but we didn't get there. I called you." Laura sighed, a faint flicker in her face, but it spoke volumes. Maya's phone buzzed in her palm. She checked it. "Outside. Keep quiet. I've got this." And just like that, the bank's vibe flipped. The glass doors parted with a whoosh, and in strode Tanya Jackson, black heels snapping on the tile, dark suit cut to fit her like a glove, hair twisted high, phone still in hand. Heads turned. The suit guy paused his pen. The window lady shifted for a clearer view. Bradley didn't clock her yet, but Laura did. Her stance stiffened. "Jackson?" Tanya lifted a lone hand as she neared, deliberate, eyes locked on her girl. "You good?" she asked, her voice steady but loaded. Maya gave a tiny nod, eyes shiny. She couldn't trust her words. Tanya faced the trio behind the counter. Her gaze slid from Laura to Tom, then settled on Bradley. "Care to tell me why?" "My kid just texted me crying." Laura started to speak, but Tanya held the floor. She kept her tone level, firm. 86s, that's the issue, right?" Laura nodded cautiously. Tanya fixed on Bradley. "And you thought that was fishy?" Bradley's lips parted, but no sound came. Tanya said softly. "Curious." What came next would tilt the room, but her delivery, calm, unshaken, would leave them floored. Tanya Jackson didn't yell. She didn't pound the counter. She didn't have to. She stood, one hand in her pocket, the other brushing the desk's edge. That quiet, unshakable calm of someone who owns boardrooms and fixes fools without blinking. Bradley scraped up her voice. "Ma'am, respectfully, your girl came in alone. Tried to deposit without ID. We stuck to the rules." Tanya turned to Laura. "That's so?" Laura faltered. "There was worry about the funds, but Tanya cut in, still cool. "Laura, right? I know you from chamber events." Laura nodded slow. "I've banked here. My aide uses this spot often. My kid saved here before. Not her first visit. So what's different now?" Bradley jumped back in. "She was solo. She's young. She's 12. Tanya said, not facing her. "She's 12, with an account number, cash, and a name that matches. What else would you demand if she looked paler?" Bradley's cheeks reddened. "That's unfair." Tanya turned square to her. "You're right," she said. "It's unfair, but it's true." Tom stepped up, playing peacemaker. "It's not personal. We've got policies. We're guarding against scams. We didn't know her." Tanya held his stare a moment, then tilted her head. "She gave her name. You checked the account. You counted $86. No alerts in your system. So what scam are we dodging here?" No one replied. Tanya pulled a card from her pocket and laid it flat. "Tanya Jackson, CEO of Peak Pulse Tech, based 6 blocks away, one of Cleveland's rising stars. You've seen the ads." Bradley's eyes popped. It clicked. Tanya eyed Laura. "When a kid like my daughter hits your bank and gets tagged as trouble, that screams one thing. You spot her skin before her worth. You saw a girl with cornrows and figured her cash was dodgy. $86, she paused. Know how many dog messes she scooped for that? How many weekends she skipped? That wasn't just money, it was her sweat, and you turned her into a suspect." Laura gulped. "Miss Jackson, I'm sorry, truly, I didn't see the start, but you run this place," Tanya said. "So the vibe here, how she was handled, that's on you." Quiet fell. No more keyboard clacks, no sneaky peeks from the room. All eyes were on now. All felt it. Maya stood prouder beside her mom. She didn't speak, didn't need to. Tanya glanced at her girl. "You did it all right." Then back to the counter. And she deserves to feel she fits here, because she does. Laura dipped her head. Can we fix this? I'll handle her deposit myself now. Tanya gave a slight nod. Fine, and I'm pulling all 3 of our accounts elsewhere tomorrow. Laura looked like she wanted to argue but held back. Bradley stayed mum. Tom slid the envelope to Maya and pointed to a fresh counter, but the room's rhythm had shifted. Whispers started, not from Tanya causing a fuss, but from her not needing to. She didn't have to roar to be heard, and somehow, the stillness she left hung heavier than any rant could. Laura led Maya to another window, masking the strain with chit-chat. Let's sort you out, hun. Maya didn't grin. Not rude, just drained, done acting like she missed the vibe, the guesses, the doubt, done being nice when they weren't. She pushed the envelope over and handed the notebook with her account number in her mom's script. Laura tapped it in. Quick, edgy clicks. Done, $86 in your account. Maya nodded once, grabbed the slip, and rejoined her mum wordlessly. Tanya turned to leave, but Bradley, rattled yet clinging to something, piped up. Look, I was doing my job. I'd have grilled any kid coming in solo with cash. Tanya pivoted slow, stepped closer, locked eyes with Bradley. Repeat that, she said, deliberate. Bradley's lips tensed. I'd have done it for any kid. Tanya held her look. No, you wouldn't. Bradley pushed back. You can't prove it. Don't need to, Tanya said. You already showed it. Bradley's face flickered. She glanced around, now hyper-aware of the stares. Colleagues, clients, strangers turned witnesses. Tanya leaned in a hair. Know how often I hear that line? I treat all the same. Yet somehow, we're always the ones catching this. First to be flagged, first to be quizzed, first to be tracked. Bradley went mute. You didn't demand ID for the cash, Tanya went on. You did it for who brought it. Thought, she's just a kid, what's she gonna do? Didn't count on the mom stepping in. Maya stood by, quiet, solid, watching, absorbing. Tom coughed behind the counter. Miss Jackson, we get this was a mess. We'll log a report. Tanya didn't turn. Your call. Mine was showing up to teach my girl how to stand tall without dropping her grace. She scanned the room, voice rising just enough for all to catch. If this is your rule book, it's busted. Nothing okay about shaming a kid for saving what she worked for. Laura looked ready to sink through the tiles. Bradley shrank, less cocky. That was the aim, not to crush them, but to make them feel what they'd so easily dumped on a child. Tanya turned to Maya. Ready, sweetie? Maya nodded. Her shoulders eased back. As they exited, the window lady who'd seen it all rose and approached Laura soft. Just saying, she murmured. That mom managed it better than me. Laura forced a tight smile. We'll look into how this went. The lady nodded curtly and left. Outside, Tanya and Maya hit the sunlight. Same as when she'd arrived, yet it felt altered. Maya looked up. Were you upset? Tanya glanced down. Not upset, just worn. And worn means I don't let it pass anymore. They strolled off, hands linked. You didn't shout, Maya said. Tanya grinned. No need. Truth lands clearer when it's steady and it sticks longer. Maya went quiet a beat. Can I still bank here alone? Tanya gazed ahead. You can do whatever you want. But now you see, not every counterclerk's right. You've got a voice. Use it. Silence shields you, but truth makes you visible. Next morning, the branch boss sat in her office, door shut, air thick. Laura hadn't slept much, not from a formal gripe. There wasn't one. Tanya Jackson hadn't lodged a thing, no press, no lawsuits, just a card on the counter and a crowd who'd recall it all. That's what stung worse. It wasn't loud, it wasn't a show, it was real. And real, said soft, echoes long after folks clear out. At her desk, Laura opened an email labeled Account Transfer Request. 3 accounts, personal, custodial, business, all Jacksons, all gone. Across town, Tanya and Maya sat at a new bank, one with tellers who grinned without sizing up, where Maya's account updated fast. No talks, no doubts, no glares. As they stepped out, Maya asked, "Why move your stuff instead of reporting them?" Tanya eyed her. "I don't owe them my time to school them. That's not our gig every go. Sometimes the biggest statement's where you park your effort, your cash." Maya nodded slow, soaking it in. Tanya added, "Folks say respect's earned, but for us, it's held back till we prove it. I'm not waiting for their light bulb. Respect's a must." They hit the car. Maya gazed at her mom with a fresh awe, not from rank or cash, but from knowing who you are and never bending. Back at the first bank, Bradley clocked in, lips sealed but subdued. Her team dodged her eyes, not blame, but they'd clocked it too. They'd just stayed mum. That quiet carried its own weight. That day, 3 more clients ditched. No big talks, no buzz, just moves. Moves that said, "We saw and we mind who you treat like outsiders." That night, Maya sat at her desk, tallying bucks from aiding an old neighbor with bags. She tucked them in an envelope, paused, grabbed a marker. In bold she wrote, "For deposit only, Maya Jackson." And below, "Earned fare demands respect." She grinned to herself, slid it in her bag, zipped it shut. Next time, she wouldn't walk in shaky. She'd stride in prepared. There's plenty of Mayas out there. Kids playing it straight, yet still pegged as outcasts. This tale's not just a bank thing. It's how quick adults miss bias when it's cloaked in a grin and a badge. If you're catching this and deal with, folks, especially young ones, keep this. How you act when eyes aren't on says more about you than any rulebook. Check your gut. Hear before you judge. Don't tie respect to terms. If this hits home, pass it on. Silence shifts nothing, but truth voiced clear just might.